Converted Man here, and I've got Do You Know Me with me, and he is a mystery to everyone. Do you know me? I don't know. Do I know you? No, but we're gonna find out about him now. So here's a little bit of background for my audience of of us and what's going on is we're secret lovers. No, I mean, sorry, that's what, I was supposed to read that. Okay, so you found me through Bitchspot blog, which is he's a fun. We all know and love Bitchspot blog, and if you don't, then I'll put a thing for him in the thing, and you can do the thing with the thing. Anyway, so and then Do You Know Me wrote an essay, and I helped him with that. I thought it was like a college level thing, but it was just for a friend who's a psychologist. So it's like, oh, that's a whole different level. And I can help you with that. And I guess we'll start there. Well, how did that go? What went down with that? You know,
Um, Basically, he has clients that they have siblings that are being brainwashed by their parents, and so they just want to be able to act like a Satan, like a positive enemy to a bad idea. They want to be able to find a way that works to get the children to, basically just have a dislike for religion, because you're not going to be able to teach them anything, in my opinion, that's going to make them critical enough to want to not, deal with religion, be a part of it. So I thought about my upbringing with religion, and I was never really religious. No one could get into my head with that stuff. I thought about it. What made me not want to be a part of the church, or stuff like that, and then I just thought I added that into the essay. So stuff like staying home on Sundays or going to church and not being interested while playing with my PSP, or stuff like that, like doing implementing that in the essay, so that my psychologist can, I guess, dispatch that. But
yeah, yeah. I'm not really sure what the professionalism or would be on that as far as you know.
well, so the thing is that I guess they really wanted a way to inoculate them, because they didn't
Yeah,
want.
yeah. I'm not. I don't know that that's like allowed, quote unquote. I have no idea. I don't know, but I mean, I guess he or she would know, better than we would of how to
Right. Of
do
course,
that
he
or what to
worded it
do.
better than I did, but
Yeah, 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 yeah. Well,
but
I hope I helped with it because
you did definitely.
yeah, I love. It's one of the two things I'm fairly decent at, which is essay and logic.
Right. Logic is
Suppose
very
it could be better,
important.
but I'm okay.
I would say you're better than me.
Well, everyone has their own set of skills that they have that are better than some and worse than others, and we all bring something
Right.
to a table, if so to speak. So
I agree with that. Yeah.
um so let's talk about your religious upbringing, or did you have a religious upbringing? You said that it didn't really affect you, but you
Well,
had
yeah.
something. So
See, my mom, when see, the thing is, she kept me inside a lot as a child because she thought I was going. I had a problem with people as a child, and I would get angry a lot. Like, I guess people were misunderstanding me a whole lot, and I would just fight them, I guess, right? And then she um, would take me a lot to church on Sundays to see how I would do. But because of that issue, I, especially when you're dealing with Christians or theists, you're really going to be misinterpreted. But um, I think maybe that's the core of it all. But really, it was just me not wanting to go there. No one ever enticed me. No one ever. My mom didn't really shove, Bible scriptures down my throat or anything like that. So that maybe have played a role in it, but but mainly it's just not paying attention during service, staying home sometimes on Sundays, playing video games, and leaving the church, going out to buy stuff like candy and chips. And then at one point, um, I thought to myself, why is everyone really here? And do I really need God? I don't think I need God. I'm not a broken person, So, uh, so I guess that's pretty much my entire upbringing. I mean, I, I will admit that I was into a little bit of that, occult stuff and the magical thinking BS, that woo woo. And then I started getting more into scientific things and more into philosophy and psychology. And a lot of that stuff was easily explained away by science and psychology, you know?
Yeah, you're
So,
talking about like paranormal, like ESP, and or are you
yeah,
talking about
like
like
out of
crystals?
body experiences.
Yeah,
I don't know about like the crystals and all that because I kind of, there was a little bit of inoculation with me when I started off in high school. And I would, because I was such a lonely freak, I would go on the internet and type things up, like what do the auras mean? And print it out. And I got into like, what do spells work and all that, right? And I would read the tabs, the clickable links of every thing listed on, like, say, Pazuzu.com or whatever. And it would be names like how to make a spell to attract money or sex into your life. And I'm like, that sounds too good to be true. That's like a red flag to me. So I'm like,
yeah, yeah. If it worked, everyone would do it all the time. Like
right,
there'd be nobody would have to work at all. Like would just cast
right,
spells if they were.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, you could lose some serious money if you bought into those things because really, usually those things, say,
yeah,
okay, this is to understand how to do this, you have to buy this, $99 book or whatever.
right,
Like I have a book on how to get $1 million easy. It's only $1,000. I just have to sell a few of them. It's only
yeah.
one page. It just says, sell this book, idiot. There you go. And it's like, but yeah, I mean, so you kind of just, if I may, like, might seem like an insult, but it's not meant to be. It's like you
That's all
you
right, man.
lazied yourself out of it. Like you just like, I don't want to go. Screw this. Like,
Yeah, that's
you know,
exactly what
I'm
it was.
I'm I'm gonna lazy myself into atheism, or is that the correct
That's accurate.
what? Yeah, I
That's
was gonna
accurate.
say, what label do you want, or do you even have a label? Do you like the labels? What's
Like,
your
what do you
position
mean?
on that?
Like atheist or?
Yeah,
Yeah, I just prefer to be known as atheist. I mean, I know it's not really a thing in the sense that, like someone who's a believer, but I understand that atheists just, at least in my opinion, like others, it's belief. I mean, a non-belief because of the lack of evidence.
yes, yes. So you have, let me go down the path. So as regards to God, you were introduced to, say, the Christian concept of God. Did I have that right?
Yes, yeah.
And
I
then
grew up Baptist, but I don't remember anything from that at all. So,
probably for the best.
yeah.
Have you ever had any thinking about if there is any possible God at
Oh,
all,
yeah.
or
I
is it
can get
just
into that real quick, but I mean, if you don't mind, like,
yeah? Go ahead. No, that's why you're here.
okay, so let me start off by saying how I got into understanding. Okay, this is only done in regards to the dream world. Like when you're dreaming, if you're lucid, you can do anything you want. So that, to me, that's like being a god, in my opinion, of your own personal world. And so I thought, you know, if I wanted to understand what a god really was, if there is such a thing as a god, I had to look inside myself, like having lucid dreams. And then I had some weird experiences, but I'm not sure if they'll be the same for you. But like, I wanted to know if God was real, like, are we living inside of it, if it's mind, it's subconscious? And is there anything beyond God itself, like ad infinitum? You know, like a God beyond the God beyond the God, a body beyond the body beyond the body. You know, with various universes that they can navigate in. You know, like just imagine the opposite of you. Okay, so let me just clear this all up. It sounds confusing. If you're dreaming and then you have dream characters that you're talking to in the dream, you can just believe that they have dreams too, and then that their dream characters have dreams, and so on. So you know how infinitely just would go inwards,
Right, yeah. And so this is
but
the same but outwards. Yeah, I had the
outwards.
same
Yeah,
same sort of I've written stories and things like that when I was younger, you know, and had that same sort of thought, like maybe
yeah,
the galaxy is just molecules and the
right.
universe is just like a cell, and so like we're just part of a giant body. I think, you know, that's, I think that, I don't know how common that idea is, but I think it kind of makes, because you're trying to make sense of this universe that we're in, you know. It's like we
Right.
understand ourselves better than we do the universe, and goodness knows how well we understand ourselves, but at least it's something familiar, you know. And so
Yeah.
yeah, it makes sense to try to make sense of things in that way. So what ultimately did that path of thinking lead you to then?
Um, it just made me think about the chakras and all that. I know that chakra stuff is woo woo, but I have you ever heard of Greg Braden? He's a pseudoscientist, and I don't recommend you watch anything he says. But the when he the things he talks about when it comes to the chakras, it made sense to me. Like the upper three. I don't believe they're real. I just believe they're like ideas to represent. Like, okay, so the upper three. If you like look at the chakras, right? There's seven of them. If you look at the upper three, they're the symbols. The top, the seventh chakra is a circle, and so I think that represents the moon. And then underneath it is an eye symbol, which represents seeing. So that's where your eyes are at. You know that you're seeing in your mouth and your ears. All that up here deals with thinking, right? You're thinking. It creates thoughts. And then the lower three regions, um, yeah. So the crown chakra, right? That all these chakras right here, to me, are associated with the dream world. Like, okay, so when you're dreaming, you have a sun that gives off light, right? And then you have the earth you're standing on, and then you have the moon that revolves around the earth. Well, the moon chakra would be the purple one way at the top, and then there's the eye symbol, and then there's the throat chakra. Um, it's hard to explain, but I started off understanding all this with the solar plexus. If the third chakra is the sun, then what's the seventh chakra? It's got to be a moon chakra. Then the fourth chakra, the heart chakra, right there, represents the earth, I guess. To me, that would represent like the subconscious, the dream world that I'm experiencing. And so, like the dream world I'm experiencing right now, the earth I'm standing on, and the moon revolving around, and the sun, those three things are chakras to me in the dream world because they're just things moving around, which is what a chakra is, right? Like a wheel of energy or some sort, something that spins.
Mm.
So
And of
I
course
know,
the root chakra where we poop out of, you know, we know
right? It's,
that.
the first, the first chakra and the second
I mean,
chakra to
they
me.
put it right there. I mean, I had to say it. I mean,
Yeah,
it's like,
exactly. But
so
the way
this
I
is
make
all.
sense of that is that the first and second chakras are just energy emotions, like representations of two ways you can have a feeling, a positive feeling or a negative feeling. You have anger and then you have happiness. So the solar plexus to me represents all the suns in your dream world. Uh, all the suns represent your soul as one thing, and then all the earths together in your dream world represent your entire subconscious. So I think of the visual representations of people and animals and trees and bugs. All those things represent some important information of your subconscious. They hold information, in my opinion. And um,
So are
and-
you? I just want to understand. Whoopsie. That's the
sorry,
wrong button. That's the death button. Okay, there we go. Like, which
yeah,
button do I press? Is this all symbolic, or
yeah,
are these
symbolic. It's symbolic for like
okay?
how I interpret the subconscious and my interactions with the dream
Okay,
world.
so like with Freud, you'd have the id and the ego and the superego, and
Right. Those are
right.
the triad. We have the ego, the id, right? The ego,
Mm.
super ego, and then we
So
have the
you
conscious, subconscious, unconscious. Then we have
so
uh
do you believe these things are just symbols, or are they, is this some sort of spiritual thing, like, because that's usually with this sort of
I don't know. I
chakra
think it's
thing,
all
right?
purely psychological, but they do have some sort of they're all associated with parts of the brain. So uh,
Okay, so this is kind of just your way of understanding or mapping
yeah,
your way of thinking. It's not
like all my
like this
neurons to
is
me in the dream world represent all the galaxies. You know, all the galaxies in a dream based universe represent my neural activity. And
yeah.
then
Yeah, because I mean, as you know, I'm a skeptic, so I'm just like, what? I mean, it
yeah,
sounds it's just on the fringe of like, well,
woo woo.
is this? Yeah, it is. It is. It's like, well, and I'm trying to steel man you here and understand that
I appreciate that, man.
this is symbolic language. It's not. They're just
Yeah,
using this because it's convenient.
yeah,
You're
exactly.
not saying that there are actually chakras, or is that what
Right.
you're saying? Am I
Yeah, I'm
incorrect?
using them as symbols. I'm not really saying there's
Okay.
actual balls of energy inside of me.
Okay.
Like, I'll
Yeah.
give you an example of how I tie the chakras to how I feel and think and what I see in the dream world. You know how when you have a negative feeling in your gut, you can always have a positive feeling, but those are the only two things you feel in your gut. But then if you combine one of those feelings with how you're thinking, you end up with okay, if you combine a negative, let's say you have a negative feeling in your stomach, that would be an emotion, a negative emotion, and then you uh, allow yourself to think while you're feeling that. That feeling is going to imbue your thoughts with negativity. You're gonna start thinking negative, and so you have a feeling that manifests after that all throughout your body. It could be there's all kinds of feelings, but there's only two emotions, and you feel those in your stomach area usually. So the solar plexus is the third chakra, and then below the third chakra is negative and positive. So those are the two faculties of the third chakra, which is the area where you feel negative or positive. And then again, with those negative and positive energy motions combined with your thinking, you have a feeling that goes throughout your entire body. But of course, all this is in the brain, but you're feeling it in your gut, and those are the only two things you feel down there. At least in my opinion, for me. Tell me if I'm wrong. Do you feel anything more in your gut, or do you just usually feel excitement or negativity? Uh,
For me,
yeah, I do.
well, I mean, I'm not really exactly sure what you're asking. I mean,
Okay, so like when you get scared, where do you feel that the most? In your stomach?
I think pretty much everything for me is my head. I mean, I can get tight, sensations around different various parts of my body, I suppose. But
Mm,
yeah, I guess if I was to try to describe feelings or whatever, it's always my head. It's just, that's where everything is. I have a voice
right, of
in my
course.
head. It's just, there's like, there's physical reactions that tie to it every now and
Right.
again, but um, I don't, I don't, I don't think I would say I ever. Well, like if I'm sick in my stomach, that's like one thing, but it's like
Yeah.
emotion can cause that, I suppose. But yeah, I guess I
I
always
mean, it's not
recognize that.
exactly just in the stomach. It's just in that area in general. At least in
Yeah,
my.
yeah. I mean, it's not how I mean, trying to describe how I feel things is kind of difficult. I suppose that's what you're trying to do, is describe how you feel things or how you think things, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've got the Avatar, Last Airbender, here
That's
doing
badass.
his thing. Yeah. Now, of course, you mentioned the dream realms, and I couldn't help but think of Arkham Horror, because they have the dream realms in Arkham Horror. All these different realms you can go, and one of them is the dream realms. So like a vista that you can visit. So now, are you talking about vistas, or no? We're just using symbolic language. You're not really saying,
Symbolic language.
yeah, we're not visiting a location that's like an alternate dimension or anything like
Oh no,
that.
no.
Okay, okay, all right.
I
I just,
don't even, yeah.
I
I
was
mean,
like, how crazy
I
is my
didn't
guest
do.
today? Let's find out.
Yeah,
Just,
I didn't just make all this up. I mean, I did, but in the same way, it doesn't work like that. I didn't just pull it out of my ass because it wouldn't make no sense.
yeah,
But
yeah. No, it's just,
uh,
it's all trying
yeah,
to express how you view this one phenomenon of dreaming, and
right.
that's going
Yeah,
to, I think, require some poetic license. I'm not, super. I mean, like, I enjoy my dreams and I write them down. Uh, I've rarely ever had a lucid, like, maybe once, because
all you
usually
have
when
to do is tell yourself that you want one, and
yeah, I
eventually
do
you
that all the time. It doesn't seem to work, but it's like
That's
the
because you're
moment I
probably
realize it's a
actually not
dream, I
here.
usually wake up. I go, "Oh, it's a dream," and I'm like, "Oh, I'm awake." Yeah, or
Oh yeah,
usually I
that
wake
happens a
up
lot.
when whenever I need to go to the bathroom. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
like I'm like dreaming, and I can't find a bathroom anywhere in the dream, and it's really annoying. And I wake up, I'm like, "Ah, I gotta go to the bathroom."
I
But
know. I hate
yeah,
that.
it's like it's interrupted
I
my
thought
dream.
have you ever tried? I mean, you say you didn't have any lucid dreams, but I recommend that you, if you ever do, try to remember to tell one of your, just go look for anybody randomly. As soon as you're lucid, if you can, be lucid, go look for a random dream character and while you're lucid and be like, "Hey, I'm your god. And guess what? you know, and you too are a god of your
Yeah,
own in the universe, and then you
yeah.
too can go tell your dream characters that you are their god."
They'd be just as skeptical as I'm. I'm like, no, none of that's real. Screw you. Go away. Like.
Man, lucid dreams are a trip, bro. I've did all kinds of weird stuff, like turning lemon seeds into quarters and fucking manifesting things into reality, like bowling balls and
Yeah,
shit.
it's all
And
it's all a dream. Yeah, but so
yeah,
so now, do you think that dreams mean anything, or
it
are they just
depends.
okay?
Like, I know the last thing you think about intensely, you'll end up dreaming about. I know that there's this video on YouTube called Sword Finger. It's a key energy thing. I don't believe in that shit, but excuse my language.
No,
Um,
that's okay. I don't give a
okay.
fuck. Shit, fuck, sure.
Well, basically, what he's doing is he's visualizing. He tells you to visualize with your right hand. You're pointing with your index and middle finger, like you have like a gun, and then you're visualizing whatever color energy coming out of those fingers, like a sword, and then you're penetrating your left hand with it, right? But I kept doing that for a whole hour with my eyes closed and just trying not to focus on anything else but that. And I eventually fell asleep, and in the dream, I saw me doing that, but there was actual energy coming out my fingers, and I could feel it going through my hand in the dream. So that to me was an experiment that I didn't intend for, but it happened, and use that as an example of the last thing you think about usually is what you're going to dream about. So I think that it depends of what you've been through throughout the week and how much fear you had, how much excitement you had, because everything you do, right, is through your senses is being rained upon your hippocampus, right? So, um, and your hippocampus
Yeah,
is where temporary memories are stored, right, until they get consolidated.
yeah, and blind people and deaf people have different dreams
Right.
than other people. It's just because they experience the world differently, so they dream differently. So yeah, I mean, it's an interesting, you know, thing that other creatures seem to dream as well.
Right.
Cats and dogs and other primates. I'm not sure what other animals dream or that we think dream, but it does seem to be something to do with the complexity of a brain, that it at some level that it needs to
Right.
dream, like it has to.
Well, can I ask you a question? Can
Of
you tell me if this is an ego death or if this was something else that I don't know the name of? Maybe you might know. But I basically had an experience where I didn't know who I was, where I was at. I was surrounded by darkness, and I could still feel the hot vibrations all over my body. I passed out, but what I did was I have this ability to increase my heart rate at will without thinking anything other than having the intention, like a light switch on and off. I can experience excitement or fear like intensely for 10 seconds, and that causes my heart rate to increase or my nerves to flex. I don't know what I'm doing, but I know I can do this weird thing. And I thought maybe as I'm passing out, from holding smoke in my lungs, marijuana smoke, I thought to myself, maybe I gotta quickly do something about this, or I'm gonna fall back and hit my head, right? So I quickly went into a frog position so I wouldn't fall and hurt myself, and then I did that thing I told you I could do, speed up my heart rate with a feeling that I could turn on and off. It's like a fearful feeling, and it caused my heart rate to increase. And the whole point of doing that was to whatever oxygen I have in my blood, I want to get that to my brain so I don't stay stuck in a passed out state for like however long maybe 10 seconds. I wanted to get out of there quick. But for like 5 seconds, I was aware of being unaware in some way. Like it was really weird. I was surrounded by darkness. I didn't have the ability to express effort. I couldn't think. I didn't know who I was, where I was at. But I could still feel heat and vibrations all over my body. So I guess I was like a flower, I guess you could say, metaphorically speaking. Um, but what would you call that experience? Like you're passed out, but you're not really passed out. You're aware that you're passed out. It's weird.
I do not have any particular word for that. I don't know um, if there's a terminology for that or whatever. I mean you're talking about I was going to ask if you uh, involved medic drugs in these
No,
in your
no, it was just weird.
activities.
I
Yeah.
felt, I
So
felt
I
that.
don't, and that can, well, different narcotics and have different effects upon the brains of all, and
Yeah.
everyone's a little bit different. So
Well,
goodness
usually,
knows. I think that ultimately, my thoughts would be that whatever you experience in that moment is probably it's whether it's happening in that actual moment or later on, and it feels like that moment. Who knows?
right.
Without having some sort of instrument strapped to your head at the time, I don't think we can really know what the bleep was going on. But we do know,
Yeah,
I think, that it was in your brain and not anything
right.
else. It was just, this is what your brain is trying to make sense of things, and it can't right now. Like, it can't feel like, somebody without an arm, they have a phantom arm pain, for
Right.
example, if they'd had an arm before. And so, well, how can you have pain when you don't, your brain is thinking that it has an arm? So something like that sounds like what it might be going on. And
It sounds like
especially,
I
yeah, especially when you mix in any sort of drugs at all, even
Yeah.
alcohol, you're going to have some
Uh,
sort of
I,
different
I try
effects.
not to drink that much. 2 beers a month.
Yeah, alcohol and what's the not weed? What's the
Heroin?
no? But I was trying to think of the actual name for weed.
Oh, tetrahydrocannabinol or something
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah, something like that. All that can, goodness knows. I mean, I know that there's been studies done, and whether it's beneficial or not, I have no idea. I'm not into that sort of research, so I don't
I'll tell
really
you
know.
straight up right now what weed feels like. I don't know. And don't listen to anyone else. I know this sounds
Well, it's subjective, right? It's going to be your
right. It
feeling.
seems subjective, but I promise
Yeah.
you, anyone who's smoking weed, all you gotta do is take their blood pressure before and after, and you'll see that their heart rate has significantly increased. I guarantee you that. And all that tells you is that what's associated with a fast heart rate. Well, you have anxiety, you have excitement, right? So
I
when you're
thought it was
high,
lower. I thought it was a
no,
downward,
no, no.
not
It
an
doesn't.
upward.
It depends. I guess
Yeah, probably.
it
I don't
depends
know. Without,
on
yeah, if we don't have a study to go on, we don't. We're
right.
speculating.
Well, for me, at least, every time I smoke weed, I use my phone. I know my phone isn't very accurate, but I use that little heart rate monitor app, and I stay as still as possible. And I literally see that my heart rate has gone up a
Yeah.
significant amount when I'm
Now,
high.
yeah,
So
I was gonna say there have been martial artists and things of this nature that have claimed that they can increase or decrease their heart rate. And a claim is great, but that's all it is, you know. And I was wondering if you had done any tests to show.
Oh yeah, I could show you if I had some ability through here to share my screen and
Yeah. I
that
mean, it would require some setup and some technology, I'm sure. But I mean,
right,
I was
yeah.
just wondering if, you know, because it would have what we would want ideally is a demonstrable demonstration that
Right,
indeed.
I can easily provide that, but I prefer
Yeah.
not to record it because then if it's recorded, I could have easily fooled you by moving my finger around or something.
Well, you know, I think that we could probably come up with some sort of parameters that would satisfy my skepticism and the skepticism of
Okay.
most people. But ultimately, we would, you know, if we were going to construct such a
Yeah.
test to demonstrate it, we'd have to be very thorough. And
Yeah, I
at the
showed
end
my
of the
doctors and or
yeah,
when
at
I
the
get
end
my
of
blood pressure and they're tripping on it. They're like, "How the fuck do you do that?"
right. We would want it to be something demonstrably demonstratable, and
Yeah.
if it's something that you can do, then it's like, well, okay, that's great. You know, can other people do it, or is
Yeah,
this
everyone
something
can do it. You can
learned,
do it.
or
You just don't know
well,
that
who
you can do
knows?
it.
It depends.
I'll give you an
That's the question.
example of what the feeling I experience that I use as a light switch on and off real quick without thinking nothing other than the intention to make it happen. Are you scared of spiders?
Um, not really. I
Would you
mean, I
creep
don't
out
like
if
them.
there was one behind your neck and the legs were just tickling the back of your neck?
I don't. I think I'd smack it away, but
What would you feel though on the back of your neck? Would you feel a
uh,
glow of disturbance? Like,
yeah, I would. I don't know. It'd probably bother me. I mean, it would. You
okay,
know,
so that bothering
anything.
feeling in the back of your neck, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so could you imagine a spider behind your neck kissing your neck or tickling it or whatever? And what do you feel through that imagination? Do you feel anything happening in the back of your neck,
Um,
even the slightest?
I don't. I don't know. I mean, kind of. Like if I really try to make myself feel that, I suppose I am. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, I don't. You know, I don't really know what the point of
So the
that
point of that is
is.
so that see what you're doing is you're programming your brain. I guess call it that. You're training your brain to have a feeling in that particular area of your body through imagination. And then
Uh-huh.
after that, you can recall that feeling without thinking that imagery. You can just simply remember how it felt and it manifests there again. So,
Okay, you know, okay, this is something that's a phenomenon that I did experience as a Christian, is that when I would pray, I could ask God to zap me, and I'd have this sensation from the top of my spine down to the bottom
yeah,
of my spine. And when I deconverted, I realized that it was just me telling myself to do this. So
yeah,
I can
exactly.
just make myself feel that whenever. So it
Yeah.
sounds like basically you're talking about the similar
Well, I'm trying to
phenomenon.
explain it in a
Yeah,
way you can understand because
yeah,
it's not that
yeah.
simple, but it's like in a way, it's like flexing your muscles, you know.
Hmm.
But you're not. I'm not really flexing my muscles. There's something originating from my nerves or somewhere around there that when I do this, it seems like overexcitement, and I can only hold that for 10 seconds until I start shaking.
Mm.
But it's not my breathing either because I could breathe while doing it. So
Yeah. Well, I don't know. You know, I mean, it's we're talking. I mean, it's outside my scope
yeah, I'm
of
pretty sure you
anything. I
could
mean,
do it. It's just I need to find a better way to
well, I
describe it.
mean, you know, even if I could do it, to me, you know, I would just be like, well, that's the thing I can do, and I would have to, you know, find some decent research if there is any. And the problem is with a lot of these sort of like, you know, these things is that you can go down a rabbit hole of
Right.
just complete nonsense. There has
I
been,
agree with you.
yeah,
I've
there
never.
has been real studies done on different things like this. And, you know, I mean, it seems that some people can do or can make themselves feel or see things and other people just can't because of the because the brain is different for everybody. Every human
Right.
has a different brain. So my speculation is that some people's brains can perceive a god, others can't,
Right.
and some are flexible that can do either or. And
That's why I got into
yeah,
science because I needed the explanation. Like
yeah, right,
I
exactly.
know
That's
math and neuroscience. Overly strong perceptual predictions.
yes,
They're
yeah, that's
being
where we're
rained
gonna
upon.
find the answers. Is not
Yeah.
we're not gonna find the answers in the woo. We're gonna find it
Right.
in the data
And
because we
psychology
want
maybe combined.
right. We're right, exactly. We're gonna have to do the hard work of looking for did anyone do this research already,
Right.
and how credible is that, had it been duplicated, and what procedure did they do, yada, and go on Google Scholar and just dig through paper after paper. And
Yeah.
it's I think that well, there are many reasons why people go into woo, but it's just easier. It's
Yeah.
difficult to learn the scientific method and to actually apply it. I
To be
mean,
honest with you, I still don't have it memorized, but I do know that Google has it bookmarked for me. So,
or the
you
Google
know,
Scholar.
no, just like whatever. See, I'm dumb as shit. Excuse my language. I'm dumb. I'm really, but I do have everything I find scientifically interesting, or anything to do with psychology. I have all that bookmarked, and I take screenshots of every word of it for the definition of every word that I find interesting or hilarious. They have like a shit ton of screenshots of definitions of all kinds of words, and I'm interested. I love that stuff, but I just don't have the time to memorize it. So I bookmark them, and then I come back to them when I need the information. So I don't have nothing memorized. So
Right.
I'm an idiot, but I at least I'm interested in those things.
Right. I mean, I that's at the end of the day, that's how we're going to we exist in this real world, and although it's fun to pretend that the universe is a giant body, unless there was
I prefer it
evidence, you
wasn't
know,
though.
yeah, it's kind of fun to pretend and play around with,
Can
you
you
know.
imagine if God was real, bro? You know, like he comes down to the earth, he's lucid dreaming, we're in his mind, and he's just like
Yeah,
raping
so
everybody and killing everybody and
yeah,
just like,
try
you
to wake
know,
them up, see what happens. Yeah, no,
I,
I've had the
I don't
wind.
think we could do much to God. Like
Yeah,
if we found out that we were living in another creature's mind, the worst we could do is fuck with their beliefs, at least his beliefs. Because again,
yeah. Wake them up.
we're
Yeah,
just representations of what God believes, right? So
yeah.
visual representations, all we have to
What
do
were
is change our
you
beliefs.
thinking when you came up with me? Come on, man. What were you doing there?
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, well, there's things like the red or the Red King's dream or the Windfish, where you have this sleeping entity, and it's like what Alice in Wonderland, they come across the Red King who's asleep, and they go Tweedledee and Tweedledum's like he's dreaming about all of this, all of
Yeah.
us. And it's
What
like,
about
okay,
Peter
so
Pan? Isn't
he's
that the
dreaming
same
about
thing?
you as well. It's like, yeah, we're all in this dream. So if you wake
Yeah.
him up, everything ends because you're in his dream. And I'm like, wake that guy up, find out for sure, because you don't know. You're just saying
I have
that
a
to
theory about that. Like, I'm not a theory, but I guess. Like, okay, like, what if when you're awake, you're still dreaming on the inside? You're just not tuned into it. You're tuned out to your external senses.
I don't know. I don't know about that.
And that's just a guess. I'm not really saying that. I'm just like,
Yeah.
yeah, because it would
But
have to be
yeah,
a continuation of your subconscious. Your
yeah.
subconscious just
I
couldn't
think
end,
that
right?
that's when people think about a god, it is basically that they're using they're using humans and making it into a superhuman. They're making it
Right.
into just a big human that's
Yeah.
dreaming us, or created the entire universe or whatever in a lab experiment or on a computer or whatever. And it's like, well, we can mix it's hard for us because of our evolutionary heritage, I think, to grasp that we're just multicellular organisms and a bunch of potential energy bouncing around. And, we're not, none of this that we see came this way. Like the universe didn't start the way that we see it. It's been that way for a while, and it goes back beyond any of us ever existed. It's hard for us to really get a hold of, I think. So we go to these easy stories of, well, just a thing like us made it. There you go. That answers it. And you're like, well, wait a minute. That didn't answer anything. Now we got new
Right.
problems. Now, how did the thing exist? How did the thing get made? Well, it's always existed. Oh, okay. How does that work? So it's like, oh, you don't know, and
See, that's another thing I wanted to talk to you about, but I'll let you finish though. I'll
no,
get to
no,
that in a
it's okay.
second.
No, no.
Okay, I see. The thing is that Christians and theists and flat earthers and whatever, right? They they have these illogical, irrational, unreasonable positions, and I'm like, so I don't know who's a troll, who's genuinely believing what they believe. I want to know. I want to know how to spot the difference because
Ah,
I don't want to be offensive to someone who really believes something versus someone who's just being an ass.
yeah, it's called the Poe phenomenon. So Poe is a poser, um, and the problem is with a Poe, you don't know, you have no idea, and there's no way to know. And so Poe
Yeah,
became a popular sort of internet thing to do. I don't know how popular it is nowadays. I know that it was for a long time. It was like a
that's new
lot
to
of
me.
people were doing it. Now it doesn't seem like a lot of people are doing it. If I can recall, there was the best Christian YouTuber ever, the best Christian American, or something like that. There was Creationist Cat. There was probably others like that are still out there. Uh, but basically, like they're letting you in on the joke that they're kind of like, yeah, that I'm not really serious about this, but they don't say that. They just keep playing
Right.
their character. Like, no, I'm a like the
I think
Creationist
that's
Cat.
still alive today.
Yeah, but with a Poe that's hiding, you don't know, and you can't know because they're so good at it, you can't tell the
Yeah,
difference.
I agree.
And um, and there was this study done. I'm trying to remember, grievance studies where these three professors drew up a bunch of completely made up ideas and submitted them to a feminist I don't know if it was magazine or publisher. I'm not sure now, but they were many of these stories were accepted, and none of them were verified. And
Oh my
they just
goodness.
completely made up and fabricated data, and it was completely everything they said was ridiculous and silly. And Mein Kampf, Hitler's thing, they reworded that and submitted it, and that almost got accepted, and it was highly praised and everything. Uh, and a few of their things did get published. And so the point that they were trying to make is that there isn't rigorous standards in this category called feminism, at least in this one example. Now, whether that's true across the board or not, it's up to other people to unravel. Um, and then there was the replication problem that somebody found out in real science, where they saw that a lot of people had not had their ideas replicated by anybody else, and yet they had been cited multiple times. And so there is an actual problem, even in the most rigorous of studies that we have, that certainly needs to be solved.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think that invalidates everything, because you always seek to improve the
Hmm.
system. You always seek to get rid of the problems when you find them. And I trust that thing to self correct over time, because it's built to do that. Now, if it doesn't do that, it could fail us. We could fail it, in that way. If we don't apply these rigorous standards and don't, and the other problem people were having was that many scientists were not publishing the results that didn't show anything. And that's a problem. You can't just publish the hits. You have to publish your misses,
Right.
because it matters. You have to publish what didn't work as well as what did work, because that's what you're finding out something.
You have to
So
publish your work, basically. Yeah.
yeah. And so I think that people can see that and go, oh, well, there's this replication problem, therefore science doesn't work. Or they go, well, feminism adopted Mein Kampf, so obviously that doesn't work. Well, I have my issues with the current version of feminism and perhaps all versions of feminism.
In your opinion, what is feminism?
But not for that argument. There has to be a better argument given. You always have to have, you want the best argument possible for your idea, whatever that idea is. And so if you're going to dismantle an idea, you also need a really good argument to do that. And so you have to look at the whole thing, not just the sum of its parts. And I think people do that, like with naturalism. There's an apologist channel that I know I'm getting a little bit off track, but stay with me. There's an apologist channel that I watch that throws out all the hits and seems to ignore the misses. And it's like, right now they're doing intuition, that's what it was. That's what my point was. Intuition is unknowable in naturalism. Therefore that makes room for supernaturalism. I said, that's just a God of the gaps. That's all you're doing, is creating a gap to put God in. That's all they're doing. And they don't realize it. Are they a Poe? Getting back to that. I know my mind does this.
I'm the same way, bro. I'm the same way.
The Poe phenomenon, you don't know. You can't know. And that's kind of the point. And the only thing we can do or should do is what's called a social contract, where you assume somebody is being honest until you have evidence that they're not. And so, somebody says, I saw a ghost. I'm like, okay, you did. But that doesn't mean there was anything there. It just means you think that you saw a ghost. Your brain did something to you where that happened. And I can't confirm it. But yes, I agree that you think that happened. I don't know what really happened in that case, but and so
you could be concerned for people who say they see ghosts. You could, because
I was eaten by a ghost recently on my channel. So
there could be a gas leak, and that's one of the signs of a gas leak, and you can die from that.
Yeah, I mean, maybe. Yeah, I mean, might be. Yeah, right. Exactly. It might be any number of things that's going on. So but it's rare that you would encounter a Poe. But yeah, there is that sort of like, how do we know it's a troll? And it's just kind of one of those, you don't. But it's like it's kind of like, I think this person's trolling me. I'm not going to respond anymore. I give up on them. I'm moving on. And it's I wish there was a more objective way to do it. I haven't really pinned down any particular way to decide, hey, this guy's a troll. I've thought about it time and again, because every now and then.
Truth tables?
Huh? Yeah.
Have you tried using truth tables?
Well, you can't on this, because the problem is you can't read a human's brain, so there's no way to do it. You could hypothetically be lying that you don't believe in God, and you actually do believe in God, for all I know. But there's no reason for me to think that. There's no, so therefore I'm going to believe you when you say you don't believe in God. There's
that's the good thing to do.
Huh? Yeah, that's just what we. Yeah, that's what we do. Is we grant each other this social contract where we assume the other person's telling the truth, unless we catch them in the lie. That they say something, that before, it's like, well, you said this, or well, I know because I have evidence that it's not true or whatever, and that can be, I know that from personal experience of how just devastating it is to know the truth of a situation, look into the eye of somebody, and ask them point blank about it, and they lie to your face about it, and they're lying because what's going on.
Too, man.
It's brutal. And you go, well, look, here's the evidence. Do you want to tell me the truth now? And what's really weird about humans is they will still lie, even when you have like the truth right in front of them. This is what's really going on. And they're like, no, I didn't say that. It's like, I didn't do that. Like, no, yes,
Yeah.
you did. That's you in the video committing the crime. Nah, that's not me. That's my clone. That's a twin. I don't know who that is. It's not me
That's
though.
that is just hilarious. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't, but yeah. So I think that I don't know if that. I guess the answer is there isn't really an answer. All you can do is just assume that people are being honest with you and treat
Yeah.
them.
Can I ask you a real personal question
Yeah.
about all this? Is
Well,
it is, you this whole thing you were talking about, right? Is this one of the reasons why you're passionate about logic and reason? Because you want to know, you want to be as clear as possible, clear and straight. And if other people aren't being clear and straight, then even if you don't know why they're doing what they're doing, at least you can say that they're not being logical.
I don't know. That particular incident was a contributor. My When I learned logic, it was to try to understand the mechanics of how to argue successfully, because I'd already
Mhm.
memorized all these different apologetic arguments, and I thought, oh, this is great. But I kept losing debates online and not really, and I'm like, well, it's like I'm playing chess, but I don't know the strategy of chess. I know how to move the pieces, but that's
Right.
different from learning the strategy of what to do when.
Yeah.
And so I learned logic to do that. And then as I learned logic, I'm like, oh, these arguments suck ups. And that it basically deconverted me. I mean, that's what did it, was learning logic. So that's really why I'm passionate about it, is I don't know that any person out there listening to anything I do will want to learn logic, but I hope that they do. And that's kind of my main thing, is I want
You could
people.
teach them. You know what I'm
Huh?
saying? You could teach them. You just gotta make it funny.
Do what now?
You could teach people to be
Oh,
passionate about
teach
it.
people. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
I
It
mean,
just
that's
has to be
kind of what
funny.
I yeah, I mean, that's in my own weird way, I think that by doing what I do is that I'm getting people to think and analyze and be more skeptical. And that applies to everybody, because we're all humans. We all have the
Yeah.
susceptibility of believing in magical thinking, whether it's actually believing in chakras versus I am going to use those words as illustrations, but nothing more. Because there's a separation there. There's a difference between using the words that are available to us,
Right.
because it's just, it's easier than making up a new word. It's like, okay, here's a useful concept. It's
Yeah.
and saying, look, I'm getting rid of all the woo woo attached to it. I'm just using it because it makes it easier to explain this thing that I'm trying to talk about.
Yeah.
And
Spot on.
right. And so somebody outside, maybe, later on, because people are just joining now, but as they go back and listen to the previous stuff, they might get the idea, wow, this guy believes in woo. But hopefully hearing, they'll go, okay, no, he doesn't believe in woo. He's using these words in a very symbolic way. And symbolic language for some is something that they might misinterpret or misunderstand or whatever. And so what we ideally do is say, look, I'm using that word. It doesn't mean what you think it means. Like, I love you with all my heart doesn't mean that my heart actually produces love, because it's just a
Right.
word. It doesn't mean what it means. It's
Yeah.
and so that sort of more poetic thing, there's a license there that I think that has to be granted, because some phenomenon is weird. And so poetic things, even scientists have said the mind of God. They don't mean God. They don't
Right.
mean that. They're using that word, but they don't mean that word. And of course, the theist is like, they said God. It's like, no, but they
Yeah,
don't.
shit.
Dude, it's not your God. It's not your God at all. The sort of God that they're talking about isn't anything like your God, even a little. And so if there is a God or anything at all, we will find it using the methodology of science.
Exactly.
Uh, and people go, oh well, but God's beyond science. I'm like, there's no way you can't know that. How would you? There's no way to demonstrate beyond because there's no instrument that does that. There's no way to
Well,
literally, So yeah, that's yeah. So
like, what if you could try to do something stupid like and I say stupid because I don't think this is science, but like, if I consider my neural activity as the expression of galaxies in my dream world, what if we were to just look at the structures of the galaxies and try to decode it using programs and see what messages we get out of it? I don't know.
yeah, you could, and I bet people have. Now, there's a problem there. If
Yeah,
you
there is a problem.
assume there's many problems there, but if we assume that there is a message, then we might find a message.
Exactly,
And
that's the problem, and there's a lot
yeah,
more.
so yeah, and why would it be in English?
Right,
It
exactly.
it might be that you go, okay, well, this is all zeros and ones and whatever, and it's like, well, this makes hieroglyphics. Now that would be rather unexpected, of a discovery that you
Yeah.
input the position of planets and stars and it spits out hieroglyphics at you, and you're like, well, what the hell is this? You bring it to somebody that understands hieroglyphics, and they're like, it says eat cheese whiz, and you're like, what the
Yeah.
what does that mean? So
Well,
but
speaking of that, I had a weird experience. So I'm not sure this is sidetracking, but I think it
no,
relates.
go ahead. That's what
Um,
this show is. It's all sidetracking. That's all we're doing.
all right.
Welcome to the
You ever heard
sidetrack.
of Tuck speaking in tongues?
Yeah. I know about
Well,
that.
I
I
I
never
don't
did it,
I
but
know that I'm not really speaking in tongues. I know it was something explainable by science, whatever this I
mhm.
experienced. But I remember one time coming upstairs while I was high on weed, and of course weed had been in the picture here, but I don't think it had anything to do with it. But at the same time, I think it did. It's kind of weird. But I was
Probably.
upstairs,
It didn't help.
and yeah, it didn't help. So at the moment I got past the little tiny hallway into my room, I immediately fell into a trance where I was disabled. I couldn't. I was still standing, but I just couldn't move. I couldn't do anything other than speak, and I was speaking something that sounded to me like gibberish. And this is what exactly what I said. Chu, hold on. Chuma chama 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 chichuma. And I was like, what the fuck was that, right? So
Oh no. Well, my blue sheep here just exploded, so I don't know what you did, but no, I'm just kidding.
so at the end of that trance, I quickly went to Google and I put GoogleTranslate.com, whatever it was at the time, and I typed in
You typed in that.
auto
Yeah.
translate, and then from English I tried spelling it out CHOO for chew, but then that didn't work out, so I put CHU then MA, and then all the way down to chuma chama chama chi chuma as CHI for chi, and then
Yeah.
CHU. So I did all that, and then what it spelled out, it's detected Swahili, and I know that's not Swahili. I was not speaking Swahili,
Right.
but it
No.
detected
Yeah.
that, and it said, "This is hilarious." Okay, listen to it.
Yeah.
It says, "You've earned the party members. Gather the grapes."
Yeah. Well, there you go. You've unlocked the secret of the universe. It's the party of the grapes. We're all just a bunch of whiners because we're all grapes that have been smashed. There you go.
But I don't
Yeah.
know what
Well,
to make sense.
but that is, like you see the ghost hunter shows, which are all crap, but they
Yeah,
have one device where it randomly searches radio stations and grabs words, and supposedly the spirits can then use that to assemble a sentence. Well, if you go around randomly grabbing words, yeah, you can form some sort of sentence out of it. It
yeah,
won't make any sense. And what they do is they wait until a pattern emerges. If you wait long enough, a pattern emerges. Not
yeah,
because there's a pattern there, but because you waited long enough and you're
yeah.
looking for one, so you find one. And that's what one guy did. I interviewed quite some time
Mhm.
ago, Richard, forget his last name though, but um, he had translated Hebrew into English, and said all this is talking about the book of what was it? The guy fights the giant. Was it David and Goliath? There it
Yeah,
goes.
David and Goliath.
That's actually a story talking about the solar system. And I'm like, what now?
He's
And
taking that way too far.
yeah, it's like what? So in Hebrew, he took each word of Hebrew and found a translation for that particular word, and then he kept doing that over and over again until he assembled a thing that he then had a sentence, and he then translated that sentence to mean what he wanted it to mean. And I'm like, none of this works like that, like,
Exactly. You
and
get what you get. You don't just project
yeah,
any meaning.
you're finding what you're finding something that you want to find,
Yeah.
and you've reversed engineered it. Now he convinced himself that, oh, I don't speak Hebrew, I this and that, and it's like it. Yeah, but here's the way it probably went down is you don't need to speak Hebrew to do what you did. You just looked up what things meant. He's like, no, I didn't do that. I'm like, you might have convinced yourself that you didn't do that, but you did. Because you didn't receive this
Okay.
message from a
Can I
supernatural
compliment
source.
what we're talking about here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, can you do me a favor? I want this requires a little bit of you going to Google Images and
Yeah,
bringing
yeah,
up.
yeah.
Okay, so can you go to Google Images real quick?
Uh-huh.
Okay, type in TV static animated GIF.
Okay.
Okay, and look for the one that you think has the most patterns in it. You know, like the whichever one you feel comfortable with opening up.
Okay. Here we
You got it?
go. Yeah.
Okay, now,
You know what static really? Okay, hold on.
yeah, it's just it's like a little
Background noise
motion
from the
picture.
radiation of the universe. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's called CMB, right? Cosmic background
Yeah.
radiation.
Yeah.
But
Here
yeah,
we go.
so I want you to stare at the center of that image, right?
Uh-huh.
And I'm going to
Okay.
say a word, and you're going to perceive a pattern appear in
Okay.
that static image, and that's
All
not
right.
because it's not magic. This is going to complement what you were saying. You see what you want to see, but
Right.
also
Right.
you also see what others put
Oh,
into
I
your
can't show
ear.
that on YouTube. Oh man, I can't show that.
But
Look at what they're
okay,
doing. Oh my god, I didn't know you could
so
bend like that.
are you staring at the center of it?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to say a word and like a shape, like triangle or circle. I'm going to repeat it, and then you tell me when you start to see a pattern of either one of those shapes appear. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm going to repeat the word triangle, triangle,
Yeah, I got it.
triangle,
It's like immediate.
triangle,
Yeah, I got
triangle,
it. Yeah.
circle, circle,
Yeah, got the
circle,
circle around a
square,
triangle now.
square,
Uh,
square,
uh
square, square.
no, it doesn't want to do square. Oh wait,
Because that
okay. I
probably
think
doesn't have that pattern. That's why.
yeah. I don't I can't get square out of it.
But see
I
the
can make
beauty of
it,
that.
huh?
See the beauty of that ability. You know what I'm
Yeah, I mean,
saying?
yeah. I mean, it's because our brains are so pattern seeking. We're pattern seeking creatures that
Yeah.
will find the pattern even when it's not there. There's nothing really going on there, and of
Yeah.
course, with the optical illusions where the picture's flat, not moving, but it looks like it's moving.
Yeah.
And that's just what our brains do, and there's
Exactly.
nothing magical or mystical about it, but it is amazing the way reality really is. We don't need to add on fairies and ghouls and goblins and ghosts and whatever. That stuff, if it was real, we would have already discovered it, and we don't have anything to show that any of that's actual stuff. And I think that when it comes to psychology and neurology, because we don't know a lot about it, there's still that room for woo people to get in there and mess with it. And so you got to be really careful, because you'll go down that rabbit hole and you'll wind up convincing yourself that it's true if you're not careful.
Right.
Somebody saw Garfield. Okay, he got triangle. Grapes 42.
Yeah, that's a complex image. Cat.
Yeah, I guess so. It's got everything you want. It's but yeah, this is, it's fun stuff that, and given all the things you told me about being on marijuana, maybe you shouldn't do marijuana. You keep having all these bad
Oh
experiences.
no,
I
they're
don't
not
know.
back to back. They were just like they
I
were
know,
at the
but it's
time when
like,
I was
look, one would be enough. I'd be done with it. I'm like, well, nope,
right.
not gonna do
They were
that.
rare experiences, but
All
behind
right,
all that, I was still trying to study the occult
yeah,
and trying to assemble them
right,
symbolically without the woo.
right,
And
right.
I had weird experiences like hypnagogic hallucinations, fucking trance states of mind, speaking in a gibberish, and all those things, But of course, they require drug usage. Of course, they require,
Right.
for you to hurt yourself, like if you blood spells, stuff like that.
Oh dear.
You know, all
That's
those things.
really, yeah. That's pretty dangerous.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, yeah, it
So
is.
the other thing I would say on experimenting with yourself is, there is great danger there. Not just but
Yeah.
because you don't know what could kill your body. Like unless you're in a state where marijuana is legal, you're
Oh yeah,
taking
I'm in
risks.
California,
Yeah,
so
yeah, right. So now it's legal. So now it's regulated. Whereas before it wasn't regulated. So we couldn't. You have no idea what you're taking. You don't know what you're smoking.
I
You could be
believe you when it comes to dabs, bro. Oh,
what?
I hit a dab last time. A dab, it's like
Oh,
you get some butane and then you get a pill bottle. You get weed, the stickiest weed you could find, club weed, and then you put it in the pill bottle, drill a hole in the bottom of it, the size of the nozzle of the butane,
eh,
and then you also build another hole at the top, so for the
eh,
butane to drip out. You put, you butane the fuck out of the weed until it starts dripping with wax at the top, and then when the air dissolves all the butane out, it's just the weed, pure THC. My cousin
eh,
had made some of that from some weird weed that he got from someone he said this is the strongest weed you'll ever smoke. But he concentrated it, and then I took one hit of that, and I swear I began to when I came back upstairs and turned off the lights, I began to get claustrophobic, and I'm not claustrophobic, you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
And I felt
Yeah, I
like
mean,
all the work
you're really
passed.
risking an awful lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when I was way back, once upon a time, I was involved with the military. I'm not allowed to really talk a lot about it. No, just kidding. But uh, remember this guy, telling us about how weird people can get with drugs and trying to get high. And I don't know why he told this story. Like,
Mm.
I guess it was just, it was just time to tell a weird story. And he explained how they came up with a way to get high. Uh, and I don't know that I want to go into details. It involved a toilet and was really disgusting. I'll leave it at that. And basically, I think that they were breathing in methane gas is what they were doing to
Oh,
themselves.
good
And they
coughing.
yeah, and it's like, and we were like, why would they, why? And it's like, they wanted to get high. I'm like,
How
why?
do you do that
Yeah,
with the?
it's
How do you
just,
get high off that? Like, wouldn't you be
I
disgusted and barking
uh
and gagging?
well, I don't, yeah, well, I mean, if well, I don't know, if you cut your brain off of oxygen, weird things happens. So, I don't mess
You
around
cut
with that
that.
stuff. I just, stay away from all that. I like perceiving reality the best I can. I don't, but
Yeah,
I don't,
but
I don't have anything against people doing that. But what I was going to say about self experimentation is that's not a data set. So what you want is say 10,000 people that have all done this thing, and then you want to see what happened because of that, and that's a data set. So what happens when
yeah,
people experiment on themselves is they become a minority of one, and they become the data set, and that's not how it works, because you only can learn what affects you. You cannot learn
right.
more than that. So it's not only risky, but there's some illogic to that of, I'm gonna experiment with this or that drug, and I'm gonna take
Well,
LSD
I,
and whatever. It's like, look, you don't
for me,
you
it's just acknowledging. It shows me that my brain is highly capable of hallucinations and
Oh yeah, yeah,
all.
yeah,
For me, it's been beneficial because
yeah,
it
yeah.
helped me realize, according because I love science, neuroscience, and
Hmm.
psychology and philosophy. All these things get explained away to me. My experiences, what I've had, and I was like, okay, so now this explains to me why theists are so freaking brainwashed by their
Well,
rituals and.
it activates similar centers of the brain that narcotics do. The dopamine is activated when people are in a religious state.
Yeah,
So it activates the same pleasure zones of our brain as various different hallucinogenic drugs do. I had a kind of a troll guy a long time ago who kept insisting that if you did, I forget what it was, drug, that you would see God or you would know that there's a God or
DMT.
something. Yeah, that's it. And I'm like, the problem here's, and then there was a skeptic, I believe, I want to say Michael Shimmer of Skeptic Magazine had done it, and I'm like, he's still a skeptic. He doesn't believe in God. So there you go. Your idea is ruined already. I don't need to try it. Someone else already did. Checkmate. Done. And he's like, no, no, no. But if you try it, you'll have this experience. I'm like, and if I don't, then what? He's like, oh no, but you will. I'm like, you don't know that, and but I have no reason to do it. Even if I had the
Yeah,
experience, it doesn't mean anything. He's like, oh, then you would believe in God. I'm like, Michael Shimmer didn't. I'm not gonna either. But
I would just think I was
he
tripping.
was so sure. He was so sure that if I did it, then I'm like, look, I don't know, but I don't care because if there's a God out there and I can't experience it without taking a drug, then I guess I'm never gonna experience it because I'm not taking a drug. That's the end of
Right.
that,
Right.
and that's my
You
choice,
would never want to know a guy in the first place. Trust me. If you think having a girlfriend is a pain in the
Well,
ass,
God, yeah. C.K. Lewis did this whole bit about God's a shitty girlfriend. That's hilarious. Yeah, it's like yeah, you want someone that I mean, what would God need with anything? If it's God, then it has everything. It doesn't need to make anything. It's got if it's perfect. But then
right?
now we're making all sorts of assumptions of what God is or how it works.
How do
Maybe
we know
God
it's
is
gender, right?
what the
How
belief
do we
is.
know it's a guy or a girl?
Well, we wouldn't. How do we know it's even an it? Right,
Right.
exactly. So
Exactly.
it's a concept that we can play with, and maybe there's some utility there. We can use the word God in artistic, poetic ways, just like you can use the different chakra terminology in artistic, poetic ways to explain things. But we've got to be careful that people that read whatever we write about it or hear whatever we say about it don't go, oh, okay, and go down the wrong path of
I
woo.
try my best to
Yeah,
explain
yeah.
myself because I get really irritated when people. I know it's innocent. There's a difference between pretending versus thinking, but
Hmm.
when people think they know what they don't know, I usually always forgive it. But when they persist after I've corrected them about what I meant about what I said, man,
Hmm.
I get pretty frustrated. But
Oh yeah. Oh
um,
yeah. So we've gone down a lot of different paths here. Very interesting, thoughts and stuff that I'd love if you could get your psychologist friend to in touch with me. Uh, if he or she would be willing to do that.
I'm pretty sure he
Uh,
will. Yeah,
yeah, but send them, let them know that I'd love to talk to them about religion. Maybe it doesn't have to be on air.
I
It could
could
be
just
off
link
air.
you the email if I can text you that I can email you his email after I text
No, I'd
you
rather you email him my email. That way, because
that. Okay,
yeah.
yeah, I could do that.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Confirmation bias is a son of a bitch. Right. Exactly. So let's wrap up a bit because we've been going an hour, and I don't want to keep you, forever. I mean, we could keep
Yeah,
going forever, but we're not gonna. So
I appreciate it,
okay.
man. You're being
So
mindful. That's actually a good quality to have.
yeah. So any last thoughts or things that let me put you in a weird position. Let's pretend that 1,000 years from now, people are looking back on what you've said. What message would you have for them?
To be mindful and to always question everything, including themselves.
All right, that's a good way to wrap up. All right, well, thanks for everybody for listening, and I see everybody in chat. The chat, for whatever reason, won't show up on YouTube. I don't know what's going on. I'm gonna fiddle with the settings, see if that works, but it won't. So leave your comments because comments are a thing. Don't forget to tell them to comment. Just tell them, dude.
Later, everybody.
No, tell them to comment. You didn't tell them to comment.
Comment too, by the way.
Comment, yeah. Post likes.
Subscribe, comment,
share
like,
the video.
all
Send me
good
money.
shit.
Wait, what? Don't hit the button. No, don't do that.